everybody. How are you doing this week? Today is Saturday, February 1st. And let me just show you. Look at. Is that not gorgeous? The sun, this is what I was recording yesterday in the window, and the snow is just so pretty. So there's that. Let me turn it around. Look at that. Beautiful. What else was I going to tell you? I have something to show you. Hold on. Hello again. My name is Sherry. If you're new here, I'm an adult with ADHD, possibly autism as well. I might be ADHD. It's going to be a long process to figure that out. But on my channel, Lady Phoenix, I am going through different things to help myself and be supportive and helpful to all of you the best that I can. And I hope we can grow an awesome community here to just be positive and support each other the best we can. And so guess what? I have some ADHD magazines, and now that I'm starting to get my energy back and I want to start filming again, it's been kind of gradual. Some weeks all I have the energy to do, because I was coming out of a burnout, was to express myself by typing things out in the community posts, but I know that not everyone's going to want to read them, so they're there. But some weeks I'm just too burned out, too tired, and just trying to cope and do daily function things. So I'm slowly getting my energy back. I'm slowly getting back to whatever normal means for what would be normal for me, I guess. I can't wait. I don't know how long that's going to take, but it can't come soon enough. And I was reflecting on when I started this channel, and I had been doing some Learn With Me videos, and I was studying different classes to renew a phlebotomy license I have, but the classes were interesting and I could pick which ones I wanted, and one of them was about the opioid crisis, and I felt it was very interesting and I learned a lot from that, and I thought I really have to share this with people, and that was a lot of fun. Not fun topic for obvious reasons. You know, there are people who are hurting right now. But my goal was to try to learn after reading that article and studying that course. It really made me almost like hyper-focus. It became an interest for a minute. And I still would like to go back, and because I wanted to overall like go through different sources and see overall in the different cultures in the different times, addiction to opium and opioids seems to go at least all the way back to Egypt. And I had read somewhere that there were cultures in the past that got destroyed by it. So I do want to get back to that at some point, because I found that very interesting. And I just had a feeling that if we could just look at the whole picture, we could have a better understanding as to perhaps how to deal with it today, maybe. Maybe it's not that simple as just not using opioids. I don't know. I also wanted to know why they invented it in the first place, as far as it being, they didn't invent opium. The poppy plant was around. It was already being used by different cultures as a drug, but in the early was it the late 1800s? Early 1900s. I forget the gentleman's name. They were already using it for patients who were in a lot of pain and suffering. And pain management is very, very important. Not just for if you have an injury and you going home, but the pain management I'm talking about are, they didn't have anesthesia. They were cutting off limbs. Okay, I'm going down a rabbit hole. So yeah, they had to, that's all they had that worked that well. And you're not going to do certain things if somebody's been in a car accident and you have to do surgery and you have to do, because your body's going to go into shock. You have to use some kind of powerful pain medicine, and that's what we have right now. So apparently he created it because back then, when you're using the plant, sometimes there was no way to, how do I say this, regulate it so that it always was a precise dose. And I think at that time they were thinking people were getting addicted or dying because it was so inaccurate, because you were just taking it from the plant, and apparently some of the poppy from one plant to another had different potency. And so one person may not get enough and be crying in pain, and another might get too much and might die. So that's the birth of that. I'm really interested to go back at some point. It's not high on my priority right now, but I did really enjoy reading some of those excerpts from articles and a podcast that I listened to. It was really interesting, and I would like to go back to that if you guys are interested. I was thinking that was a lot of fun for me to share things with you. I like to teach people, and I have enjoyed looking at other channels where they're reading to you from books and articles and whatnot. And one of the things I've been wanting to do is this magazine here. I didn't realize I had 3. I have 3 different publications about ADHD that are recent. All the books that I got when I was diagnosed at 25, I might have donated them all. I think I donated them all to my local library before moving. Because that was from the Y2K era, and I didn't think I needed to know it anymore because it'd been so long. But these are recent publications. This one they just republished again. This is a special the special edition of this magazine about ADHD. This particular one is very, very good. And I just really, really liked how everything was laid out and explained in a very good way. So I do want to go back. Oh, I really, really like this analogy too. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Yeah. The ADHD iceberg. Look at that. What the culture thinks it is just you being distracted. That's all people see. Losing track of time. They don't see your executive dysfunctioning, your emotional regulation issues, time management issues, dyschronometria loss, not being able to sense the passage of time, poor proprioception. You're tripping into things or bumping into things because proprioception is your ability to judge a distance between you and an object. And it's an automatic thing that our brain does, and ours doesn't work so well. So it thinks, that something is a little bit further away. So you go to put your drink down or maybe you think it's closer and you go to put your drink down and maybe you spill it. You're not clumsy. So and then the coexisting comorbidities such as depression and anxiety. It's a lot, right? Some symptoms of the condition are clearly visible, but many can hide below the surface. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, lots of goodies in here, and I'm really looking forward to reading excerpts for you. I did notice in my local pharmacy that this is on the newsstands again, on the magazine rack again. This one I got, September of 2024. Check out, if you want this, I think this one's worth getting. I remember looking through it and feeling like, yes, I really liked how they encapsulated, is that the right word? Specific topics in a way to help you understand. And especially if someone's new to trying to understand ADHD, this will help. So I was thinking I could read excerpts to you, maybe in a live, or maybe, yeah, I love this. This is very good. Or maybe I can do video series. And so if you're curious what all of these are, you might think this is your thoughts being distracted, and it kind of is. But in the ADHD group I was in, they compared like a neurotypical brain to a neurodivergent brain, and the neurotypical brain didn't have all these bright colors. This is symbolic. This is not, we don't have like colored circles floating around us, of course. It's just kind of an analogy to show the differences of how our brains work. So with a neurotypical brain, it's very easy for them to go to thought A to B, and they tend to be less creative. And so we do have gifts that come along with this, but this kind of represents, you know, oh, we think of this and it reminds us of this, and oh, that reminds me this and this and this and this. And so it's like kind of all over the place, but the color and just experiences in life. And then there's some information about nutrition. This is not just about focus. See, that's the thing, is they can't change the name of ADHD because we have legal rights that people, from what I have read, either I saw something about this, I'm not sure where I saw it, but from what I understand, advocates have fought over years for us to have rights under the Americans with Disability Act and other laws. So even though now they know ADHD is a terrible name for it, because it's not about, ironically, it's not about your attention. Your trouble paying attention is a symptom of a much bigger problem. And that problem is executive functioning. Your ability to think straight. And all the other things, organize, plan, know what's important, emotional regulation. It's an executive functioning issue, right? So, and that affects everything. It affects simple things that are simple, like just being ready to work on time, having poor working memory. So those two things together, poor executive functioning and poor working memory, other people around you, because ADHD isn't something you can see, they see you spacing out, they see you getting frustrated. They might just think you're frustrated or upset because you're having a hard time keeping it together and these symptoms are interfering, and it is really frustrating. But there are several parts of the brain that are affected if you have a neurodivergent brain that has ADHD. So I already knew about the frontal lobes being affected. What I didn't know from the ADHD group I was in, and I do want to do videos about this as well. The first week we went over the anatomy of the brain and how it's different. So neurodivergence is kind of a movement to support diverging neurological systems, you know, and now it covers more than just autism. It's ADHD, autism, OCD. I don't know if major depression or bipolar is in there. I wouldn't be surprised. It's your brain is formed slightly different neurologically than the average person, which they call neurotypical. So it is also a disability and has legal protections. And I have had my own personal issues accepting that word of disability. And this is personal for everyone. You can decide like how your lived experience is and how your functioning is affected by it. There is a spectrum, just like there's a spectrum for people with autism, and there's many different challenges, and maybe one person has certain challenges and another person has different challenges. But they're both autistic, even though they seem completely different from each other. So with ADHD, I do want to do a video about that too. I want to draw the circle. So with autism, you have, and autism I'm newer to learning about just this past year. So autism friends, please let me know if I get any of this wrong. But I remember with the circle, there might be other things now, I don't know. The challenges, differences in communication, of course, the sensitivities, the sensory sensitivities, and some of these ADHD and autism can both have. So we share certain challenges, and it all depends on who you are and your particular, I don't know, flavor of autism or flavor of ADHD, like what your challenges are. I have an adult, an older adult. I don't look it, but I'm 50 now. I was diagnosed at the age of 25 around the Y2K era, so that was quite a long time ago. And I did all of my learning about it back then. And I didn't know until like the last couple of years when my depression became, and I have depression as well, diagnosed a major depression. And I'm managing it now. It had gotten so bad that I was not functional and I couldn't get out of bed and I had to get help. And me starting to see a counselor and trying to do all the steps to become functional again. And then starting to look up stuff on ADHD as well, because it had been so long, and I was looking like, oh, what were the tricks that I used to help me to manage my time? Did I use charts, the Pomodoro method? And then I stumbled across Dan from Aspie World, and he was doing content with, he did a couple of videos with Jessica McCabe from How to ADHD, which I love her. She's freaking adorable. And I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way. I adore her. I love her. I think she's amazing. I identify with that little kidness part of ADHD. I have that too. She's amazing. She's like a big squishy heart. She's all heart. I just love her. She's amazing. She does a lot of good work on her channel. So if you're curious about her, I found out about her from a TED Talk that she did. And that's how I found her. And her experience paralleled mine in college before I was diagnosed so much. I can't remember if I cried, but it was a lot. But anyway, getting back to about a year or so ago, a couple years ago, I was starting to relearn some stuff about ADHD because it had been so many years and I was just kind of going through the motions, and I don't even think I was managing it anymore. I didn't recognize that there were other things I could do. And so I started realizing, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff that I don't know. What are they talking about? And one of the things was my counselor had my prescriber recommended that I join this ADHD group. And I have talked about it in other videos, but I'll just mention it again here. I won't get into a long thing. I'm very fortunate to have the hospital and healthcare system that I have. There is a woman who created an adult ADHD group. And it's not so much of a support group, even though it has some aspects of that. It's more like a class. And each week we went over a different topic, and you kind of have to be on a waiting list for it. And I haven't heard of anything like that anywhere else. She pretty much created it on her own. And I think from what I understand, and I might be remembering this wrong, I think she was working with children and something switched in her, and she just realized that there are a lot of adults out there who don't even know what's going on and what's causing it. They just knew the stereotype, being spacey and losing track of time, and you still think you could do it if you wanted to, or that medication could fix it. It helps, but it doesn't fix it. So yeah, and I learned a lot in that. And then I was like, wow, what? There are 4 aspects of your brain that are different. It's not just your frontal lobes. Oh God, that was so depressing. I think I started to cry after that meeting was over, and I had the outline. I printed out an outline. I asked her to send us, because she would pull up an outline to go over these things. But for me, I process things really slowly. And she asked people questions on the spot. And I can't necessarily answer those. So I had gotten a lot of anxiety about that. And I had asked her. I asked her if she could just send me something in my email. Because I feel like it's a waste of a meeting, right? If I don't know ahead of time what it is and can kind of prep my mind to already be receptive to the topic, it takes a long time. So, and then I could think of these things ahead of time when she asked the questions. They're reflective questions, or it's kind of strange, but I wasn't prepared for that. And I felt like saying, why are you asking me if I could do better or what I could do better? I didn't know what we were going to talk about today. I wasn't prepared for this. I have no idea. Isn't that what you're here for? To kind of like help us to give, I mean, it's our job, of course, to take ownership for our own challenges and to try to manage them the best we can. But yeah, that part was intimidating. But the thing about the brain, I really, really would like to get some more information for you guys on that, because I don't think it can be overstated how important it is to understand the neurology of how our brains are actually physically different. It's called a neurological condition. It has to do a neurodevelopmental condition. So neurology, think of neuro is, so your nervous system, right? Your brain is like the computer, and all the nerves send the messages to and from any, and that's probably also why we have sensory issues, right? We don't necessarily get the messages to our body that says, I'm hungry, poor interoception. And you can go hours, and it's not so much that you're doing hyperfocus, it's you have poor interoception. You might not know you have to go to the bathroom until you really have to go and you have to run. And autism can have that as well. I find it so fascinating. The similarities between the two, even though in some ways they're opposite. It's really strange. And it's hard for me as a late diagnosed, I say late diagnosed because I was diagnosed as 25 as ADHD, but didn't realize like how much of my life that really impacted. And, of course I knew intellectually that wasn't my fault, but I knew the rest of the world didn't care. And that's fine. It's embarrassing. I didn't want to be the poster child, or poster employee. I didn't want any attention on me. I didn't want to be othered. And a lot of people who are autistic or ADHD, there's some similar experiences growing up. ADHD children. And girls tend to fall through the cracks because they tend to internalize things more and be. Some girls have hyperactivity too. So with ADHD, you have the 3 categories now. So you have primarily inattentive ADHD. Think of what used to be called ADD. That's me. And then there's the primarily hyperactive. So maybe they space, but the primary thing that they're dealing with is this motor that they're constantly like, nobody can go fast enough. They're in a hurry and they get impatient and they get some emotional regulation issues, which I do sometimes too. But, yeah. And then there's the combined type. So it's really hard to kind of unpack if you have both, because there's differences in how severe it is for each person, both ADHD and autism. But as I'm learning about burnout, because I'm recovering from a burnout, my symptoms in the last year have been way worse than in my life. And it just made me feel crazy. And I think that's why I started like this 30-day experiment. I think most of it is just me wandering around trying to get a hold of my symptoms. And I just like kind of flubbing my way through it and couldn't figure out why I couldn't fix it, because newsflash, you can't change it. And for half of it, I wasn't medicated. So I had to get used to that all over again. But yes, this is very good. And I'm going to be reading some of these excerpts to you guys in the future. And I think it's really, really, really helpful. I can't remember right off the top of my head the areas of the brain, but there's 4. And actually, it's 3 areas of your brain, and the 4th is the connections are different. So not only are different parts of your brain not working the same way as they do for someone else, they may not work as well. So you're having challenges and you don't know why. And it depends on the part of your brain. This is the part that has to do with attention, right? But we've got other things going on that we don't even know. And then the connections don't work so well. So some things that are very seamless to a neurotypical person that they just do and they take for granted, and they have no idea that there's multiple things going on in their brain at one time, to them feels like one thing. But if the part of your brain that's trying to remember or do something a certain way talks to another part of your brain in order for you to complete a task or to remember something or learn something or to communicate or even to be ready on time, if they're not talking to each other, then that's like somebody cutting wires in your car. And then you're expecting it to work the same. Overwhelming. It's a lot. But helping me, me talking about this helps me as well, because I felt like once I was in that group, I'm like, I have to share this with people. And it's not that the information isn't out there. It's just, it was put encapsulated, like each topic was, there were 6 weeks. It was put together in a very comprehensive, it was very easy to absorb and go, oh. So you didn't have to necessarily understand the whole thing. It just kind of made you aware of something. So if I were to go on YouTube before even having that, and I were to look up the different things that somebody with ADHD has to deal with, I would be overwhelmed because it would all seem to blend together, right? Because it's complicated. You have time management. Now, not everyone deals with all of these. And like I said, some people are primarily hyperactive and some people primarily inattentive, like myself. So there's different symptoms and challenges if you're different ends of that spectrum of ADHD issues, or you could have both. I forgot what I was going to say, but it's okay. And I love you guys. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So there is the anatomy of the brain, poor working memory, executive dysfunction or executive functioning issues, planning, prioritizing. So, you know, when you get analysis paralysis as an ADHD person and you are sitting on the couch or in bed and you know you need to get up and do things and you have everything swirling in your head all at one time and you feel like a crazy person, that you should be able to do it because nobody understands why you can't just do it and you don't understand why you can't just do it. And you won't accept that you can't just do it. And then you sit there like, ugh. And so then it's like emotional overwhelm. And then maybe you crash and have to go do something else because now your brain's fried. Because it's like you're cramming for a test. But instead of cramming a bunch of information you need to know for a test, you're cramming all this information. It's just all flooding in there all at one time. And that aspect of your executive functioning that decides what's important and can sort out the things that aren't and not pay attention to them doesn't work with us. So, yeah. Anatomy of the brain, executive functioning issues, poor working memory, emotional regulation, So that means there's at least 2 others. I have to find my notes. This is something I've wanted to do for a while as well. And of course, we weren't allowed to record these because it was also therapy, because there was a counselor running it. And the people who were there, it was referral from their prescriber or their counselor. So it's through the healthcare system, and we have to respect each other's privacy. It's supposed to be a safe space. So we can't record it. And I tried to take as much notes as I could, but if I was really doing that, I wouldn't be able to do that and pay attention and get things out of that meeting, which I really needed. A couple of us, after the 6 weeks, a couple of us were just like, felt, okay, now what? Because we learned all this stuff, but it wasn't enough for us to really get deep into each thing. Because each week, not only did we go over that topic so that we could understand why we have specific issues, and then we would reflect and she would ask us, how has your past week been? What aspect of your past week have you dealt with this particular issue? Is this one of your challenges? And if you were performing better, what would be different? It was to kind of help make us aware, not to make us feel bad. It was very eye-opening, but I feel like that process of learning that and really taking it in and really truly learning it and applying it to your life, I just don't know if you can really absorb it from just 6 weeks and then that's it. So, and because we have ADHD and we can't, the ones in my group, we were really having a hard time trying to get together. And most of the people, I tried to send like a group email out to everyone, and I might have been struggling more than other people. I felt like an alien in that group. They didn't have the communication issues I do. They don't have the processing information issues that I do. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons that I think I might have ADHD. It's complicated. And I just want to learn everything I can before I start. Now, this is just talking about getting an assessment for me as an adult, if I want to do that or not. And it's not simple. It can cost $3,000. That's a barrier. People won't accept the people you do try to share it with, or if you do have to disclose to a boss because you need to ask for accommodations and not get fired, they want documentation, so that would help. And I have sensory issues, and it's bothering me. I don't know, do you guys want me to talk about that now? This is a half hour. I'll just say it's complicated. One of the things that makes me pause is, I don't know if it was in the PBS video that I put on about neurodivergence. I think I have a playlist about that. It was a very good video. If you're new to my channel and you haven't seen it yet, go look for it. It's very good. It's like 12 minutes. It's by PBS. It talks about autism, but they do mention ADHD as well. And I think, like in my head, I can't separate them because they have so much in common that it actually, this might be taking, yeah, this is taking a leap for me to think that they're related to each other. It just feels that way. They're both neurodivergence. You're diverging from the norm. Neurologically, your brain is functionally different. The anatomy is different. It works different. You know? But from what I understand, if you get an assessment as an adult, there's potential consequences too. And my therapist told me about this. You could get a false negative because from what I understand, it's hard, first of all, to find any place that will do screenings for adults. Most places will only do screenings for children. And most places and most people who do screenings, even if they screen for adults, the questions are designed for how autism presents in children or men. So the question might have to do with a special interest, but the question might focus on, do you like this thing? Well, maybe in men, they tend to have special interests tend to be certain things. And us women wouldn't necessarily relate to that because men and women have differences, right? I think we have different brains too. So from what I understand, not only is it, I haven't been able to find a place yet that does it. I don't know if my insurance would pay for it. These are all barriers. And this is why I would really like to discuss and ask you guys how you feel about self-diagnosis, because people outside of the autism community, outside of the neurodivergent community, ADHD, autism, they put all of the value in your assessment from a professional. However, on the outside, they think that you just watch some TikTok video and decide that that's you. But they don't realize that most of the people who are trying to sort through if they have autism as an older adult, it gets very, very complicated, especially if you're like me, you've been masking for your whole life. I don't know where the mask, because it's so conditioned, it's so automatic. I don't know if I became this, I feel like it's me. But when I reflect and I look back, I remember, wow, wait, I did script things. And I had I actually realized that the other day. I'm wondering if neurotypical people do that. When they were learning how to act around other kids, did they script? Do they script at all? Do they figure out what to say ahead of time so they know the right thing? I was so desperate. I didn't need to be popular. I didn't necessarily need to fit in. The abuse and the bullying of being othered is just so painful emotionally when you're a child. Because children don't understand and they take things to heart so personally, and you carry that. And you don't realize something's happening. All you know is, to you, that's a failure. To you, that is your effed upness, and you don't even know why you did those things. All you know is you need to get rid of it ASAP. And you suppress it. Because hell no, you don't want those weird behaviors that you used to do as a kid to show up when you're at work. Because they do. And yes, I have some stories from my 20s. I can tell you guys if you want. I didn't know about any of this stuff. I was young. I might have just turned 20. Yeah. I had working with a manager who would badmouth some of the customers because they were unique. And to me, I didn't get that. So somebody has a punk rock hairdo. So what? Someone's goth. Who cares? I don't know if that's a neurotypical thing or a her thing, or because she was a Taurus too. I don't know. Not all Taurus. Not to get into astrology. Astrology, you just take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's pseudoscience. It's not real. Don't worry, I know. But certain personality traits do line up. And that's another story time too. But yeah, she used to stare at me. And I guess when I would lose time, I'd be doing the same thing over and over for 20 minutes. And then she'd be like, do you realize you've been standing there folding these things over and over for 20 minutes? And I was like, no. And I was so embarrassed because I had no awareness. That I thought I was crazy. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I'm just tired. I always was tired. Wow, I was tired even back then. And she's like, you should get tested for diabetes. I almost got my sugar, didn't know what masking does. Yeah. It's a lot. I love you guys, and you're not alone. And if you would like, I can't wait to read these things with you or for you. And let me know. Let me know in the comments below what aspect. Now, I'm going to be reading about ADHD, and somebody who's from the autism community may come in and think that that's mostly what I have. I kind of have a feeling it might be equally both, because I feel like an alien in both groups. I feel like a weirdo, you know? And we're all unique anyway, but it makes us so damn complicated. And if you're really good at masking because you're articulate and you're intelligent, and I love to do like performances, doesn't mean that my behavior when I'm masking isn't me. That's what's so freaking complicated. It's still me, but it's like a suppressed, homogenized, acceptable version. So it's me, but it's, what a mess. What a mind F. Yeah. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.